Change is one of the hardest parts of being in any large organization. It's also hard when you're small, by the way, because having conviction for what needs to happen is actually the first step. And I would say for any marketer that feels a sense of clarity in what needs to change, that's already an amazing first step.
It's interesting because as marketers, we are the storytellers. In a lot of cases, we are the ones that move the needle for our organization. So when we have to do it for ourselves internally, sometimes we struggle. I would tell marketers to use that same thought process that they use to motivate and move consumers to how they're speaking internally.
Go back to the basics, right? So start primarily first and foremost on the goal. What are you trying to achieve? How is that goal helping you achieve what your business needs? And ultimately, even beyond your business, what the outcomes for your customers you're trying to achieve are. And so when you set those goals up and you start with the understanding of what's your current reality, what's the ideal state you're trying to get to, you got to think about that pathway to change and how you're making that. I'd start first in the idea of like understanding the stakeholders that you're working with, because in order to help any change happen with an organization, it's really understanding what are the different sub goals that everyone that's a stakeholder in the organization is going through, and how to think about what can you help them achieve by ultimately getting to this goal that will help the organization as a whole.
You know, the more you can start to build alliances with other groups, for example, in marketing, maybe working across the aisle, so to speak, with revenue and trying to figure out how your idea can shape actual growth outcomes for the company. I think the more you can show that your idea is not just a great idea, but is really tied to tangible business outcomes, and get others preaching that on your behalf, has always been the most effective mix in my view. But again, I think being that champion for a new idea takes not only the ability to exercise soft power and work across teams, but it's an amazing thing when you are the one carrying the torch for a new idea. So I would just say a word of encouragement is that it is worth going through that effort. It is worth being the agent of change in your organization. And so I would encourage you to do the hard work of figuring out how to get it done. But I think that's the first step, is knowing what you want to have done.
Use the language of the CEO. Use the language of the VP of sales. How do you get them to understand what you're trying to do? The only way to do that is to speak in their language and answer the question, so what? After everything you put in front of them, ask yourself, so what? Because that's what they're going to be asking. And if you can continue to answer that question and solve their problem, then you can help the organization move in the direction that you'd like to move them into.
So really understanding your audience, understanding all the stakeholders, I would say is probably the first thing I think about when I think about trying to help my organization or any organization move to achieve the goals they want.